investors take more active role in achieving a good health and well-being as defined in the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. By the end of the Impact Investment Summit, I hope we all know what are the SDGs. That's the abbreviation for the Sustainable Development Goals that are defined globally. These are 17 topics on which humanity should work in order to preserve the planet and the people and enjoy the life in the coming centuries. So I would like to start with our three panelists are from very different we'll talk from very different perspectives, but we'll link to the SDGs and we'll tell their opinion what is important in terms of the organizations from where they are coming and in terms of the problems we would like to solve. So I would like to ask Ms. Sarah Watson to just tell us briefly about her and about her organization.
Just the organization, or should I talk about the issue?
Whatever you can. I mean, we will do it more interactive. So we can first present ourselves in brief, and then we will start the discussion.
I'm the global director of Ready Nation and Ready Nation International, which is a business membership organization that supports executives to advocate for and investments that grow the future workforce.
Okay, so I'm Tina Alton. I'm the WBAF HC for Ghana. That's Niger.
Okay. Did I say Niger?
Yeah. He's
Tina is. Okay, sorry.
And I'm also the CFO for an organization called Empowering 1 Billion Women by 2020. And I co-founded a social impact organization called Undefeated, which focuses on preventing diabetes-related lower limb amputations.
Okay. Denise?
My name is Deniz Musser. I'm the founder of B22 International Advisory Company. It's a family officer company. I'm quite experienced in the global family office space to date and to share the opinions on that.
Okay. So, Sarah, can you start elaborating on what does the early childhood has to do with the SDGs and with the impact investment?
Well, thank you, and I really thank Bybars for inviting me to be part of this group. So I'm going to talk about business leadership to support the next generation of workers, starting in the earliest ages, 0 to 5. And you might wonder why a business audience is talking about that. Well, there are 3 target goals within the Sustainable Development Goals that specifically address early childhood. 2.2 on nutrition, 3.2 on health, and 4.2 on education. And they do that because the first 5 years is when the basic human brain develops the skills and abilities that enable them to be entrepreneurs or anything else. We now know
Just
that...
Just a second, Sarah. Dr. Hashim, Duja, and Miguel, you are disturbing us. Good. Thanks.
We now know that the human brain develops about 90% of its adult weight by age 5. So this is a period of time when the brain develops the capacities not only to read a balance sheet or a manual, but also to persevere through challenges and work in teams and everything else that successful adults need. We know that the earliest age at which scientists can now measure the difference in brain processing between infants in higher income families and lower income families is 9 months old. And this is true across countries and across cultures. Children in lower income families can have half the vocabulary of children in more advantaged families by age 3. So both the math and reading and emotional development gap shows up long before primary school. But the good news is that economic evidence shows that we have a good way of addressing this. So studies by economists and others across a wide variety of countries on every continent, maybe not Antarctica, but in other continents, shows that the benefits exceed the costs of specific programs such as early education, early health care, and parental supports. So for this reason, because of the importance of early childhood in developing the skills that adult workers need, and because there are solutions that have been shown to have an excellent return on investment, including by people like James Heckman, the 2000 Nobel laureate in economics, business leaders across the world, from large and small businesses, have come to see that this age range is a business issue, not just the involvement in the older kids that you might hear of more often. And in fact, one of our prominent members is the former CEO of Procter & Gamble, and he calls early childhood the economic, social, and moral issue of our time. So I'm excited to talk about what business leaders are doing after my friends here get to introduce their topics as well.
Okay. I would like to switch to Tina now.
Okay.
Tina, just give us an introduction into your magnificent story and the magnificent things you've been doing.
Okay, so I'm sort of in between two spectrums, the GST5, which is empowering, education empowering women and girls all over the world. So that led me to the organization I'm currently working with, which is Empowering 1 Billion Women by 2020. And, we've got 3 years to do that. So what we're doing is, first of all, connecting women-owned businesses to funding resources. Because the number one reason why women, don't grow or scale their business is lack of funding, and then also lack of mentorship or just being afraid, mindsets or not feeling confident. Mm-hmm. So in addition to obviously connecting them to funding resources, we provide mentorship through our leadership as well as our mentorship accreditation program. That allows us to build, the confidence for women. So yes, you've got the money, but now also we're equipping you with the confidence to be able to go and, play big and make a difference. And that really is close to our heart because women reinvest 90% of everything they earn back into their communities and to their families. Mm-hmm. So it's an absolute no-brainer that, if we can help a woman to earn more, they ultimately will give more, and therefore we will impact more. So that's one side. And then switch to the other extreme of what I'm doing is health, which also is a big thing, with the GSD. So I guess I got into that. I mean, we've been in the health industry. This is our 18th year. But really focusing on diabetes came about in the last 7 years when my daughter was diagnosed with type 1. So obviously through our own personal struggles, we kind of realized there's really not much out there to support her, mm-hmm. to not be part of the statistics. And currently, every 20 seconds, somebody who has diabetes has a lower limb amputation, and 85% can be avoided. And the starking thing is, if diabetes was a country, it'd be the 4th largest country in the world. And every year, over 1.4 million amputations, happen where we can save 85%. So our social impact organization seeks to provide, number one, education, awareness, and also action points that, people can take to be able to not become, not have the complications that ultimately leads to the mm-hmm. amputation.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, and how do you fund the NGO?
Well, that's a good question. Since we launched it in 2014, we've been funding it through our own, ourselves. We have private clinics. That is our own business. Mm-hmm. So we fund it through that. And also we've put together the World Diabetes Initiative. So that brings other organizations that provide, products to the solutions that we're trying to create. So we've got partnership with them. So for example, Novo Nordisk or Bayer, where they test strips, mm-hmm. insulin. So I guess from monetary, like real hard cash, we've been funding it ourselves, but we have other partners that we've been working with globally.
Like many other examples where NGO founders are actually building a movement around it. Around the idea.
Yes, I mean, I always encourage in business, the fastest way to build any business is through collaboration. Mm-hmm. Look for who else is serving your client base. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to collaborate with them? So if we're, let's say, in podiatry, hairdressers service our clients, opticians service our clients, even my local butcher is serving my clients because every person going to the butcher has feet. right? Everybody going to the dentist, the optician. So you have to look at who else is serving your client base that you're not in direct competition with, and you've got to make it a win-win for them, so that it becomes a no-brainer for them to be able to say yes to you, and immediately you've got a new client base that you haven't necessarily spent, hard cash to market to. And if you do a good job with your conversion rates, that's a bonus.
Okay. Denise, how can family offices help here? And what does it mean, family officer, in terms of funding, investing, and so on?
We touched upon health and
You have to
well-being.
press.
Sorry. Okay. We touched upon health and well-being from the perspective of Sarah with a reflection to children, and with Tina with reflection to women. And as family officers, we represent really the family side, which includes, in my eyes, both the children and everyone included, and the continuation towards other generations going forward too. So what you need to know about family offices, that they are a bit different from traditional asset managers in the way that they start with the question of saying, what's the purpose of wealth? And that purpose of wealth includes the health and well-being already. So dynamically, internally, in the DNA of a family office, if it's a really family officer work and if it's a true family office, is included the way looking into impact internally. Second thing that you should know about our space is that when we look at things, we don't look at it only on a purpose level. That starts with our values, and therefore we have more of a tendency to look into impact investments if that's part of our values. The second thing that we do, we look at investments on a disciplined basis. We don't just go around, we don't just build one muscle and forget about the muscle. That means we look into our total wealth. And based on that total wealth, we make an asset allocation. So when we do the asset allocation, we have the privilege, actually, as family offices, to say, okay, we want to try a part of our total portfolio, say in an impact asset. And that we can do as an exercise for our next gen to build their muscles and to, as part of our philanthropic reasons as well, linking it to the financial side too. So we have, in our disciplined approach, the possibility to allocate a portion of our assets. And on top, I must say, the third level now I'm talking. This is the wealth level purpose, then the asset allocation. Now I'm looking into the investing side. On the investing side, it's good for us in two ways. One way, it is good if it's liquid side, if it's the liquids that are doing good in ESG are returning better, that we know. And we either invest in those companies or we find managers that invest in that kind of liquid space. And if it's not the liquid space, if it's the illiquids, the advantages are either we have family businesses. Most people don't know, but Robert here, he's one of the founders of really this whole space in the world. He also says most families, they don't know, but their family businesses are already creating social impact. So if they are done in a good way, in the illiquid side, in the alternative side, we are already doing well with our with that part of our investing appetite. If we want to do even better, there are three ways that we do it. I'll nearly summarize my whole speech now. But the three principles are either do no harm, or seek out good, or actively do good. And as far as the investing side of this is concerned, this gives us the possibility to create and make a link to our succession planning, to our wealth structure, to all the top things that make us a better contributor to the society. This space gives us that possibility. So I'm in the space for now 10 years. Like 8 years ago, it was very difficult. It was seen as an exotic asset allocation. Not many people talked about it, though I have given the reasons why it is important to us. In the last 8 years, so much has changed. I know families that have 100% of their total portfolio in impact investments. 100%, it's incredible. And they think it should be like that going forward. And I know families, for instance, health, linking one with us, actually also Simone, if I can, that are prioritizing health tech and thereby contributing in the well-being of the world. That's in a nutshell.
Okay, so gradually with time the situation is different and much more advanced in the past 10 years.
It's incredibly changed.
Okay.
8 years ago, I was going to families, talking to them about the space. Now, like we were at IBAN, there was an investment there, and there I met so many families that are coming to us. They don't know how to find the right deal. They don't know how to read the right deal. They don't know what the real benchmark is. And there's a little, maybe that's one of the most important messages to get across today is, of course, the education. That part of the muscle building is not there yet fully so.
But they know their values and they know what they want. So you're there to guide them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Sarah, can you now follow up on what they've been doing?
Great. So I'd love to talk about what your business peers are doing right now and give you some ideas. But first, I just wanted to relate the issue about diabetes is that we now know that there is a strong relationship between the first 5 years and adult health, both mental health as well as physical health, like heart disease and diabetes. So it does start in the earliest years. So we are working in the US and also 3 other countries to build business networks of champions who are advocating for and taking action to support early childhood. Uganda, Romania, and Australia. So we take a very expansive view of impact investing in terms of helping business leaders invest not just their money, but you have many other resources that you can deploy, some of which don't cost any money at all. So you have your name, your reputation, your time, and your political capital. So we talk about 6 categories of business actions very quickly. One is giving your time, expertise, and volunteers to community organizations. This can be traditional CSR. But I will note that in the US, the investment firm Vanguard recently made early childhood one of its top corporate philanthropic priorities. And the former CEO who helped make that decision is a member of Ready Nation, and he's happy to talk investment language and why he's made that decision. The second category is working through your employee network. Your employees often have young children, and many of them might need help in knowing that it's important to start reading and holding and playing and singing to your child literally from the day of their birth. The Mother Child Education Foundation in Turkey is working with businesses to give advice on parenting, and it was endowed by a very prominent business leader in Turkey. The third category is working through your customers and supply chains to get the word out about the importance of taking care of children starting from a very early age. Goya Foods in the US puts parenting tips right on the packages of their food products. So the idea is reaching parents wherever they are. There are food store, grocery store chains in the US that turn their stores into literacy opportunities. So there are signs telling parents, talk to your child while you are shopping for food. So 2 tomatoes plus 3 bananas equals 5 vegetables is a great conversation to have with your young child. The fourth area is social innovation and social entrepreneurship. It's an area that is not as well known for early childhood as it is for other topics like energy and the environment. But there are models. So Good Start Early Learning in Australia is the largest provider of childcare in Australia, and they have a cross-subsidy model that takes the income from the highest level families and uses it to subsidize the lower income families. And the London Early Years Foundation in London does the same thing. The fourth area is getting the word out through media. You all have a tremendous capacity to get this issue into the media because it's an unusual story. You don't expect the COO of KPMG, for example, who's one of our members, to be talking about early childhood. But he signed a blog post for us that we wrote that the World Bank publicized in 2017 at the Davos World Economic Forum. And that was a great way to get the word out. When Romania, our group in Romania, had a business convening, they had TV stations there, they had newspapers there, and they generated more than 20 media pieces because it was so unusual to see business people talking about young children. We've generated more than 500 media pieces in the last 3 years, and these are all earned media. So it's great publicity for you and your company, as well as for the issue. And then the sixth area is direct policy advocacy, and that's mostly what we do in the US, as well as helping business leaders in other countries help figure out what their agenda is. So you can make policy better because of your expertise, as well as make policy happen. And I really want you to think, when you think about social impact, to include policy advocacy. Your private dollars are incredibly important. What you are doing on diabetes is incredibly important, but it would not get there if you didn't have the healthcare system that you have in the UK. And so you have to involve public dollars in order to accomplish whatever goals, including the goal of all young children ready to succeed. So as much as you might not like politics, you really have to get involved, and politicians will listen to you because you are not early childhood experts, not in spite of the fact that you are not early childhood experts, but they will listen to you because you are objective observers about this topic. So I hope you'll want to know more. I will also mention there are some materials out there that give these examples and statistics. And if you are intrigued, every 3 years, we sponsor a global business summit on early childhood that's just for business leaders. The next one is November 1st and 2nd in New York City, and I hope you'll consider joining us there as well. Thanks.
Okay, now I feel sorry that we didn't organize this panel in the CEO Entrepreneurship Summit, but we will repeat it next year. It's a good topic for them. You really, Sarah, an eye-opener. Tina.
Thank you. So I'm going to give you like 3 examples of what we're doing across, the various projects. So if you take, for example, EBW, so we've got 1 billion women that we're trying to reach. Now, out of these 1 billion women, not all of them would have access to, the money to buy the learning that we're providing, for example. So does it mean that you'd leave, that group of women behind? No. In collaboration, again, talking about collaborating with other people. So we're collaborating with an organization that was born in India called HUM, which is Human United Mission. And what we've done is we started, like a little trial pilot scheme in a small town called Charleston, and put a fashion center in, and we were working with disadvantaged women who were, disadvantaged but disabled women. And, part of the culture, sometimes when you're disabled, you're totally, completely written off as a family. So by bringing these women in, what else have we done? We've not just empowered them, but we've taken them out of poverty. We've taken them out of domestic violence. We've taken them out of physical, violence and abuse. We've taken them off the street. We now empowered them to be able to earn, money that they're investing back into their family. And some of these women are blind to see them threading, and the clothing they make, you put it next to in a jacket from, Louis, you would not be able to tell the difference. And these are disabled women making it. And so, there's one lady who has a daughter who's also type 1 diabetic and hadn't been checking blood glucose. But when I saw her in July and then went back in October, and her face to say, I can now test my daughter. And it was just unbelievable to see this woman transform. So that, you can always make an impact. And actually, the social impact is what's creating sustainability for the future, for the world. And therefore, if you've got the means or the know-how, you should be able to give that. And it's not all about money. It can be your expertise. It can be your social media account. I'll give an example. When we launched in Undefeated, we launched in the US, October 14, and then June 2015 in the UK. By June 2016, we'd had over 6.7 million global reach. Now, I couldn't have done that alone. I had people who were supporting, not with money, but with their social media account, with their influence. And we can, that is something we can contribute. It doesn't cost you money. It costs you what, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? And you can be part of that social, change that impacts the sustainability for our global economy. And again, looking at technology, using mobile technology, we built a network of over 120 private practitioners. Now, in the UK, in the NHS, they interested in like firefighting, and not really talking down at the NHS. They do a tremendously beautiful job, but it's such a bureaucratic organization that it's hard to implement change faster. So what do? You're going to sit down and wait. 120 private practitioners. If anybody needs help, we can signpost them. But mobile technology, if you take Africa, they have access to mobile phones faster and quicker than they have access to clean water. So how do you use it? We give them an app. They can take a photo of an ulcer, whatever it is, send it. We can connect them to a Western doctor ASAP and get help for them. So I want to encourage each and every one of us, creating social impact is not all about money. It's about everything that you have, your expertise, your time, your connections. They can all contribute to make a bigger effect, the ripple effect. So I want to encourage you. I've got a gift for all of you, EBW. I've got a disc that you can listen to, 100 empowering voices to encourage you and to build you. And also for the 30 days, if you can't see it, you can write it down, ebw2020.com/WBAF. It's a special code to use to give you access for free. The code is WBAF. Please share it on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Tag me in, and I will help to, kind of like get it out. But if we can support together to reach these women, it's incredible the difference that it makes to them. Yeah.
Thank you, Tina, so much.
Thank you.
Denise, can we have a last word from you?
Some of my suggestions going forward, as far as asset allocation is concerned, depends, of course, but normally as family offices, we look into 2 to 5%, maybe it's good to mention. We don't really care, at least most, about how to brand it. It can be sustainable, it can be social, it can be, so long as it is doing good. And that doing good is sometimes we have observed in the space not really aligned with what happens down the need, but is looking, so I couldn't express this very well. We find intentionality very important, but that intentionality has to be matched with the performance, and that performances calculation is depending on each and every family office and every manager and things like that. It is good to really observe that what you are doing with your money is really creating value, and if it's not creating value, don't do that, I would say. And to give you an example, I have seen companies producing telephones for blind people in big destinations like India and others. The idea is great, but there are some market challenges like scalability. And having seen that, these intentionally good companies, when they come to market, they have their challenges, and those challenges go back to their investors as other challenges, and therefore how to linking it back to the sustainable development goals, because 5 to 7 trillion, part of it needing to come from the family office space. My last
message
suggestions about that is the big four, for instance, them driving scalability together with intentionally driven investments, value-driven investments is one of the answers to the world's problems. The second is this mission-driven companies having more democratic access to finance, And if blockchain and ICO are doing good to that end, I'm okay with that, so long as these companies are fully supported. And third and most important, all impact, sustainable and everything, it's a matter of human consciousness as well. And human consciousness is through self-reflection. I have seen many wealth owners going through that process and afterwards coming to here. And I would therefore say, go through your self-journey, be your hero in your own journey, because you will come to this aspect through your investments when you do that.
Thank you, ladies, for the lovely
May I
words.
have 30 seconds?
Of course, and if anybody else wants to comment or ask a question.
Yeah, if you know any woman in India, the HUM project we're working on, we're taking the rural woman who, you know, really has nothing and teaching them how to utilize their skills. So how to make chutney, mango chutney or papadums. And we don't sell it to the supermarket using mobile phone and mobile app. We sell it to the urban city. So we've got people on the ground, soil testing, etc., to make sure they're real 100% organic produce. We make sure that we bring it to food standard levels, that it's fit for consumption. And we sell it to the city woman who is now eating healthily, not just herself, but her family, and is able to, you know, share with other friends as well. So if you know any woman in India, please, 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 I'd love to be able to invite them into the network. This is their business. We don't, you know, this is the ecosystem that we've created to help them empower themselves, but also to create wealth for themselves and lift them out of poverty, lift them out of domestic violence, abuse, off the streets, and anything that dehumanizes, you know, a woman in that part of the region, sometimes just because of culture. So if you know any woman at all who's in India, I would love to have them in the network because they can help. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Any last thoughts, Sarah?
No, I'm just really
Lots
Yeah,
of questions.
Fine. Thanks, everybody, for
Thank you.
spending a day with
Great.
us,
And
for,
thank you,
for
and thank you
contributing
again.
to Impact. And let's go for a coffee now and some
Yes.
stretching.
And have your gifts.
Yes, and see you at 5:30 at the final closing.